Hello, welcome to my Web University free educational videos. Today we're going to talk about Chapter 6, Apache Web Server from my book, On the Direct Path to Linux Ubuntu. And we're going to demonstrate Apache Web Server running on Linux Ubuntu in this case. So let's get started. This is Apache Web Server, basically. Just a banner that we're going to discuss the web server, and the name of the web server is Apache or HTTPD, Hypertext Transfer Protocol daemon, or Apache Web Server. Apache, as the name stands for, basically is put a list of modules or patches together every time there was some issues back in 1988, 89. People wrote some sort of patches for running on a Linux machine, which was a Red Hat or some Caldera or some other version of Linux. And then at that time, they wanted to have a web server. So as the name stands for Apache, every time Apache was introduced, and the name came out to be Apache, like a list of patches together. All those ones are modules nowadays, and the modules directory, which I will show you later. So that's the name that came out back in 1988, 89, and we have been using it since then as a web server, as an open source software that everybody can just have the binaries as well as the source code. You can build it from scratch, which I did on one machine, and then I'm going to demonstrate that one today. There's other additional videos that I have on my website. So this is my MyWebUniversity.com webpage that I have a lot of videos here that you can watch. You're welcome to go through them and then learn it for free on YouTube channel. Basically, if you click on any of these videos that I have posted, you will be redirected back to my YouTube channel. And if you just follow the My Web University page, which is this book, The Direct Path to Linux Ubuntu, then you can see all of these 7 chapters. On each chapters, I'm either teaching Linux or I'm teaching you some kind of programming, shell programming, or bash, or awk, or set, grep, and then Python, and so on. All of those ones are here. In chapter 6 today, the Unix and Linux web server, we're going to discuss that one tonight, which is this chapter. When you're learning chapter 6, basically, if I go to the top, on the top, there's going to be some banners from Google that's going to be posted here. Like you can see, you're welcome to just click on those banners if it meets your needs, and you might get some kind of discount or something. So just use those ones whenever there's a good needs for it. The web server that I'm going to do chapter 6, it is Apache Web Server on Linux. I already have this table, which is about 1, 2, 3, 4, and 3. That's 12 different list of commands on Apache CTL, commands on Apache Web Server. But this is all, as you can see, is PKG command that are in Solaris platform. So when you run it, it will give you output on a Solaris platform. The details are all here, almost like as a static page. But I'm going to show you dynamic stuff on this page as well. So you're welcome to see the Solaris version information, like HTTPD version. You can see it's I was running it on a Sun Solaris, my Solaris machine, and then the -v is basically, it gives you in details, and lowercase v gives you the version number, and when you do uppercase, it also lists you further details of dynamic modules and everything else with it. I'll just demonstrate those ones as well on the command line. So I'm not going to go further on each of these commands, what they are, but I will show you from the list of the commands here, like for example, HTTP-M is a short form for -d dump modules. So we could get a list of modules. When I was saying Apache stand for Apache, and this is basically the list of modules that were all put together. And because they patch it every time, they call it Apache, and that is why there's a lot of them now. And then in addition to Apache, there's other web server services that you can use. iPlanet was for Sun Microsystem. That's almost deprecated, and Apache is the most used web server nowadays. Netscape also was at one point was there back in the 84 and 85 stuff. And then we were using it until 90 something. But I remember I used even in 2003 and 5, iPlanet, Netscape, Apache, Tomcat, ModJK, HTTPD stuff for Apache, and everything else you could do it. And also on the Windows platform, you could use IIS, which stands for Internet Information Services. But Apache is the one that we're going to discuss today. So let me just go back here. If you go to my website on chapter 6, you're welcome to use all of these commands and just look at it and read the pages for it. By clicking on it, you can see, like, for example, Apache CTL has an argument of a stop, start, status, restart, -t, which I'm going to show you some of these ones from command line as well. And the output is here. So you don't need a Linux machine to just, or a Solaris machine to test them. You can come in my website, either read the chapter 6 documentation that I posted already, or just listen to this video when I post it later and learn Apache Web Server, or just watch this demonstration that I'm going to do here next. So if I just want to show you all of these commands, it would be a little bit boring, because you can click on these ones and say HTTP-H would give you help, and then here's the help of all the argument that you can pass on through this. And then, for example, -t will check for the syntax, and -t is right here, says that the syntax is okay or not. And then when you do -d dump module, that will show a list of modules. And -m somewhere here, uppercase M would be equivalent to this -d modules. So you can do all of these ones as well, but I will show you from the command line some of the syntax here. You're also welcome to watch this at my YouTube channel, which is right here. If you go to MyWebUniversity free education videos, you are welcome to subscribe, and then there's about 160 different videos for Python, for C, C++, awk, shell scripting, code blocks, and LibreOffice, and Unix and Linux advanced levels, intermediate level, Vim, and so on. And even in Farsi, I have a lot of good videos for people that they speak the language Farsi, which is mostly Afghanistan, Iran, and Tajikistan. And then even in some part of India, they know Persian or Farsi language because at some point they learn it through school. So you're welcome to watch it and learn it, and make comments and subscribe. So I'm going to, this video is Apache Web Server build, which is also on the chapter 6. This one basically will do the AS, LD, and GCC, configure and make, and then actually build Apache from source, which I did it on another instance. So you're welcome to watch this one and then learn how to build Apache from source code. But since I have already built it, I'm going to come here and then clear my screen here. And then I just say ps-ef grep-i HTTPD. So HTTPD, you can see that the one that I have built it already on the user local Apache 2. So if I go to cd user local Apache 2 and clear my screen, here I have the entire directory structure for Apache Web Server. So if I go to the bin directory, I'm presented with all these binaries files. Some of the files that are important is HTTPD, Apache CTL, and so on. The ones that is like APX, if you just build systems, and then you can do that one. Apache CTL is a script, and HTTPD is a binary, and then HTTP password is for a password. To set up password file. All of these files are having some meaningful information that you can use. The APR and UPR utils us sometimes when you do, those are Apache runtime modules that are there, APR and APR util, that you have to build it with them. And then there's also under the conf directory here. So let's say file HTTPD, you can see this is executable. File Apache CTL, this is a source code and shell script. So I could do Apache CTL. This one is basically the Apache CTL script that has taking arguments of $1, which would be stop, start, all these argument case, whatever argument you pass in, stop, start, graceful stop, and then restart, all of that one, you can do it. And based on those ones, the command will check. For example, if I just want to say Apache CTL status, then it will be say, let me see, Apache CTL, I must have typed Apache incorrect. So let me just correct it, and then you can see right here, when you do Apache CTL, it tells you the detail of Apache is running and all the information that you can get from it. You can also get a ps-efa grep-i HTTP, and that would say it's running. And this is the process ID for it. You can also get like lsof-i, and then this number is the process ID of Apache main process that is stored as root, and then subsequent processes are coming as daemon for security purposes. So you can do that one and then get that. Actually, since that is not a interface, I'm going to do a p-process ID, and this will give you the list of open files for Apache. So you can see that we're listening on port 8050. And if I just want to know that information later, I'll do it. But let me just look at this one. This HTTPD is equivalent to /Apache CTL-T. So when I type in HTTPD, like for example, let's say HTTPD-V would give me the version, and so does Apache CTL. One is a script, one is a binary. HTTPD is a binary. Apache CTL is a script that uses HTTPD. So when you do uppercase V, and it gives you more details of like Apache information for that web server. And if you do -T, it gives you the syntax. And if you do -T-D for the web server there, and then you can just like here you could say ~M. It gives you all the modules that are loaded here. And then if you do -H for help, you could see that here -T-dump modules is equivalent to -M. So if I do -M or just do -T-D dump modules, it will be equivalent. So it give you all a list of this. Similarly, like if I do Apache CTL, I could also do same syntax with HTTPD, because Apache CTL calls HTTPD. And similarly, if I want to say, give me a list of all the files, HTTPD-L, it will show all the dynamic link modules. And if I do it with lowercase l, it will just give me a list of modules like core, mod shared object, HTTP core, and event. Those ones were built. And then inside, this syntax, basically, whether you type in HTTP-L or HTTP-L would do that one, or Apache CTL-L would do the same thing. So those syntax are interchangeable because Apache CTL, like I mentioned, is using HTTPD. And so now let's do some more stuff here. So the directories that are here, we know that log resolve and rotate logs, everything is there. This APX is file APX. When you do that from source, if you have to use it, then this is a Perl script, text script for Apache executables stuff that we can do that one. And so if you want to see the Perl scripts here, you could just see that the Perl -w, and then all this requires Perl 5.0, use restrict and packages APX, and all that details are here. It's a really huge file. But similarly, if I go out of this one, like here, more on the environment variables and vars is also environment variables. Like if you do it on Ubuntu and other ones, you need to set the LD library path or any other directive. You can set it here, and then before you start or stop Apache, you can do that one as well. And then on top of it, for the password, you can use this one to just set up a password for .htaccess. And .htaccess is basically for security, but it has its own security vulnerabilities. You don't want to use those ones because some of it goes in clear text, and especially on web servers services that these web hosting companies, they provide their control panels usually get broken because of weakness on those clear text files that are not ciphered or encrypted. So it is not good to use the htaccess or the htpassword file. And then I'm going to show you the other directory here that is conf directory. Conf is basically a very important file, and there, so I'm going to cd to the conf directory, and here there's a file called httpd.conf file, and this one is the main directory for the configuration of Apache. So when I'm listening to Apache, if I look for the listen and then httpd.conf file, I know that this one has this listen port 8050. That means that web server is listening to port 8050. So I could say ps-efa grep -i httpd, and if I say netstat -an and then grep 8050, there's no -i here because it's number. So now you can see that I'm listening to port 8050, and that's a default port on port TCP port protocol 6, or IP address version 6 there. So because of these 3 colons, that is the syntax for IP version 6. But we could do is that also do a lsof -i and then the port number, like last time I was typing that one for this process ID. This is a process ID, but this is a port, so you have to do -i and then the port number. And then you can see that these are the process ID that are running on it. And whether you do HTTP or you do -i, you can see we're listening to port for TCP protocol. That means transmission control protocol is a reliable service-oriented connection. It is not a UDP that is connectionless. TCP is a connection-oriented, meaning that the connection is established through authentication, and then once it is established through Ethernet, through TCP, you will be resolved to some web server. So right now I am on a web server, but this is through port 80, because whether I type in here colon 80, this is my default, it will automatically resolve to port 80. And I could also type in HTTP colon // that would also take me to this one because it's hypertext transfer protocol. Notice this one does not have port 443 secure port. It says not secure. So because it's a clear text, it doesn't matter. You're just clicking on this link. The click is good, just automatically takes you to the YouTube channel. So on YouTube channel, you're automatically coming to HTTPS to listen to that video for the details of it. So let's see if that video is coming here. And you can see this one is basically showing you how to build Apache and how to do it. For a second, I'm going to skip the kind of advertisement here, and I'm going to just let this one run for a few seconds. You can see I'm showing you. Let me just pause my voice. So here I'm just showing you the Apache Web Server from scratch. And then if I just move out here, you can see some of the Apache Web Server is coming here, and then the details are very intuitive, and I go build it from source, and it's a lot of good details there. If you have to do it yourself and build the modules and build the APR and all that things, you can do it. And then at some point, the Apache Web Server, I make it and then I install it and configure it. So you're welcome to watch this video for details. I'm gonna go back to this website for chapter 6, so I can show you exactly some of the commands in addition to that. You already have this video, and I already pointed to this in chapter 6 from the Solaris. Now I'm going to actually show you the details on this web server. So this is a web server. As you can see, if I just do a ps-ef, I don't want to confuse you, but I can run multiple web server with virtual hosting options, or running it configured, and one as a binary, one as a source code, one is running on port 80, one is running on port 8050, and another server. A web server running on a Linux server is much small, lightweight process. Even with Apache, I can just open up a couple of them and have no problems in terms of load. So here, if I look for Apache, you can see I have these processes, and these processes are the ones that are running from, actually these ones are running for port 80, and then these ones are running for 8050. So let me clear my screen and show you only the 8050. grep -i httpd, and then if I just say on this conf directory, if I say grep listen on httpd.conf file, you can see I'm listening to port 8050. How do I know that one? Because I did in netstat grep -i. I could say listen, and then it will be a lot of them. But then if I just say grep 8050, then I'll show this one. And if I just did not even use the lesson, I could have just done this in one shot and just get this one, and it will show 8050. I filter it by that port number. And then I also showed you actually lsof, list of open files -i, and then the 8050 to show what are the files for port 8050 that are open. 8050, and then that would be there. And if I just say I need more information, lsof -p, I could just get the main one, which is running as root here, and get this one, and then 5 more, because that's a lot of information. You can see httpd, the one that is running here, and then all the shared object files that are here, the modules that are getting loaded here, mod oddz and mod and odd users, and also so on. All of those ones are here. So now in the conf directory, I want to show you a little bit more information here. On the grep -i document root. So I could not put -i, I could say document in uppercase, or root in uppercase, and that would pick up the document root path, which means that my document where I serve the web, it is under htdocs here. So htdocs is another directory here, equivalent to Apache. So when I do a ls-l // meaning that go one directory above to the parent directory, then list this directory. So htdocs, this is showing all the documentations that I have for HTML. I can put additional files there or just create it or add it. I'll show you some of those ones are very easy. You could basically write HTML code or JavaScript code inside HTML code or PHP code. All could go inside Python program under CGI or Perl under CGI. You could do a number of things on those directories and then put it on the htdocs. Obviously, you could put other additional software like React and Angular and everything else like Tomcat and web services that are running under Tomcat. There's web-inf. You can put those directories under the Tomcat, but they're a separate directory structure. You have to know what you're doing on each one of them for what purpose. I'm not just saying you just mix up everything on those directories. You don't do that. So under the htdocs, when we look at it, we have those files, but then we just look at document root, and now let's look at the grep for server name httpd.conf file. And I'm going to clear my screen here. So if you have a server name, you can just give it the server name, whatever. Like on the other one, I have MyWebUniversity.com port 80. That would be server. And this one, since it was a test, I did not give any name. I could give it a name. Doesn't matter. I could just initialize it. And then the other files that are important, the other information is, let me do a egrep, and then I'm gonna say user and then group. So these two are very important. What your Apache web server is going to run, user, and what group it's gonna run. So notice when I say ps-ef grep -i httpd, you can see that the main process that is started here becomes run as root originally, and it has to have higher privilege. So the parent process of this one becomes systemd or 1, which it was init in the run level system 5 release 4, but on system 7 it becomes systemd, and systemd is the mother of all process in this case. So it becomes the parent process of this one, and this one now become the parent process of every process that was spawned off. But notice that the subsequent process that on the web server people come in, use MyWebUniversity.com port 8050 in this case, is going to just take them as the user daemon. So they don't have too much privilege like root, so they cannot write to the directories that they're not allowed to do it. So the security is controlled by having this user and group permissions. And on Unix and Linux, you can modify those scripts accordingly to make sure that the permissions are good. So as you can see, htdocs here, the permissions are not for all of them are good. Like this index.html is root, but notice only root has read-write access. Everybody else has read access. But by default, you should have that permission like change owner, and then change owner, and then you say daemon. I'm going to do the entire -r and daemon. Even though this is a test, I'm going to do it to make sure that you understand the security aspect of it. So this one, and then I do htdocs. Now what I did by this command, I say change owner -r, uppercase R means recursively. Go to this directory and all the files under that directory. If there were some directories under that one, all of that, just recursively go and change the ownership to daemon and the group to daemon. So now if I just do the same uppercase command ls-l, notice everything changed and everything is perfect to the way we want it. the permissions or read write only by the daemon, and then the group and others has only read access. So that is good enough there. But since daemon has write access, that means somebody could just go and modify this file and do something with the daemon because it has write access. And I could just modify that one to say, just change these ones, even to not allow anybody to say change mode -R, and then we make it 444. And if I have to change it, sorry, I have to do change mode first. And the mode is 444, which is read for everybody, and we do recursively. And that would do it. Cannot access the daemon. Let's see. Oh, the sorry. After this one, because we're just changing the mode, we don't need the daemon stuff there. And that was just a typo left over. You done cut and paste. I don't normally cut and paste Linux. So now these ones are all okay. It is read. And let's see if we can just go to the website and then go to port 8050 and then just say http colon httpd http colon www.MyWebUniversity. I'm gonna go to port 8050, and then by default, if I type index.html, is the same as if I don't put index.html, because by default it knows that the page that I'm going to be served is port 8050 there. Notice it says it works, so this file is the index.html. And if I just say cat htdocs/index.html, it is basically HTML body. Hi, it works here, and it does the work there. So let's say we want to do the hello world here, and then I just if I just type in index.html, it would say the same thing, and it works. Let's see, it says you don't have access to the resource, and that's because read write access is a problem. So that's why, and that permission needs to be back to 644. 644, and then here now that file permissions are, sorry, let me just do this, and you can see that 644 means this. So now if I just refresh this page, it should not say you do not have access permission to the page. Let's see if I just do this. And then index.html. Okay, and let me just go to this. It works, and then /index.html. So for the index.html, let's see why it says that the message. I'm going to do the same thing with hello world. And so let me go to htdocs first. Actually, before I go to the visit, I want to show you some more on the ht.conf file. So on that ht.conf file, if I just vi the file vim httpd.conf file. So I'm inside the vim, and then you can see the line numbers are showing, and some server root where's the main directory of Apache is, the listen, what port we are listening, the list of modules that are there, what modules that are not comment. The pound means is commented, don't load them. The unpound is meaning that they're commented, uncommented, so it gets loaded at the time the Apache starts. There's a lot of directive here. For example, server admin, who is the server admin. So in this case, if I want to just do this one, I would put my username at email address. So any issue comes in, it would come. Because this is a test machine, I'm shutting it down. I don't need to modify all those ones. The document root where documents are served. These allow override options are there. And then the log files where the logs or error logs and access logs and all that ones are going to be written, including the custom logs. There's a lot of directive, the virtual hosting, and then and the extra for the HTTP D-SSL configuration. So there's a lot of includes files that you can add. There's a lot of details right here. So if I just go here and say extra dash, and you can see that if you want to do Apache Web Server SSL, then you have to do enable the file. So the file is http d-ssl.com file, and you just take this pound in front of it out and you include it. Then the conf extra directory, you go there on httpd, use OpenSSL to create the certificate, the certificate key files, everything. So under the extra here, there's this http d-ssl, and that's using port 443. You can do that one. If you want to do virtual hosting, you could do it. There's a lot of detail. Like for example, let's say go to the extra, and then we see on the http-ssl.com file, you can see that listen is a port 443, which is the encrypted port, and then the SSL cipher key. Usually you want to do strong ciphers, so you don't want to do the weak ciphers because they're vulnerable. And then SSL version 3, and you want to do TLS transport layer services or socket for the old version was SSL, and then now we have TLS version 2.0. So I mean 1.2, 1.1 and 1.1 is deprecated, and TLS version 1.2 is the one that you want to enable it. So a lot of the error log and server logs, same thing here. And this one, document root is pointing to it. And if you just want to have a server name, but since I'm running only HTTP port 80, I'm not worried about this at this time, or the virtual hosting. I'm not going to do anything. Let me just go here onto the modules directory. And then under the modules, you can see all these modules that are there. So all of these modules, if I do a word count on them, just there's 90 of them, file star.so. You can see they're all executable link format when you do a status of them, and they're dynamically linked. And executable link format, I mean by 64-bit shared objects files. So they're dynamic objects. And if you go back to the conf directory, grep-i load modules is basically on the http.conf file. Let's see, load modules. I'm going to just search for load, and you can see load modules module, because this other one would have also find it if I just had done this. So it will just go to show all the modules that are under modules and the conf file that are loading it. Let me see what else I could show you here. And then the log files are important. So inside Apache, as soon as you start Apache and stop it, it will have an IP address for cross ID. So if I go here on the logs and then say cat httpd.pid, that is basically the ID that grep-i httpd. This is the same number that is on the main process. So when you do a pkill on the Apache, it will just shut it down, or Apache CTL stop, it will just stop this process. And then if you do gracefully or restart, it will shut down only these ones. And then if this one, and there's any configuration, it restarts that one. It doesn't kill the main process. But if you do a stop, it will just stop all processes. Then you do a start, do that one. And restart is basically stopping all these ones and then refreshing this one with the new configuration. So the outage is very minimum in a few seconds. So if somebody was visiting, they are just going to be reconnected back to the process that is available with the new configuration. So let me show you some other ones, like access logs. Everything that people access to the web server, it will be written into this log file. So let's say on the log, if I just head just access, and let me just do tail, the last line that I did. Since I'm coming from a client, I'm not worried about you understanding the IP address or something, because those ones are dynamic and it always changes. So, and no worry about hacking somebody. It's like, why are you showing all these things? Some people hide this information as if like, wow, so that's such a secret. A web server that is not running is more secure than anything else. You're not on the network. And then especially if you're coming from a local IP address, that always changes. Who's going to hack that one? They don't get into something that is not running anymore. So don't worry about those security people scare you. It's like, oh, you're showing these things and they shouldn't show this thing. They don't know what they're talking about, unfortunately. So this is the error logs. When you look at it, error log, you can see that some of the error logs, if there's issues, you should be looking at their error log. So you could say tail -f error log, and if there's anything that you are going to a page that it doesn't work, you will see something on this logs, and you will just observe it and fix your problem, whatever the issue is at that time. So that's for the logs. And then the lib directory is all the libraries that are getting loaded at the time. APR is Apache Runtime, and then APR util is similarly for utils, and the lib APR, and then all of these ones are basically the packages that were built together with Apache for runtime. This is Apache runtime modules, that APR and APR util.